Preston Brashers, of course, joins us from Advancing American Freedom. It's simply put, conservatives must embrace personal responsibility and reject victimhood. But Preston also paints the bigger picture for America. And Preston, I got to tell you that I really enjoyed this article. I think that every once in a while we need to be reflective of what our journey is, not only as a nation but as individuals.
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed writing this piece, and thanks for having me on, Jeff. It's a pleasure. But yeah, I think when I look at what's going on right now, kind of the zeitgeist and what's going on in the conservative movement, I think one of the critical things is really just this idea of whether Americans are going to look at themselves as individuals with agency that have personal responsibility over their own lives, or whether they're going to look to the government and whether they're going to see themselves as victims of the circumstances that were foisted upon them. And so, really, a big when I look forward to when I look back at what the founding fathers did, they certainly had plenty of reasons for grievances, and they listed those out in the Declaration of Independence, but they weren't looking for anything in particular other than the ability to self-govern themselves and be free of tyrannical government. And so, I think that's just a model for us as we go forward of what we want to do for the next 250 years if we want to continue to succeed as a nation.
Well, the other thing, too, Preston, in the article, and I think reflective, too, it made me want to go back and read some other stuff as well when we look at this, is that many people forget. It's easy that time and distance of that time, it's easy for us to forget what our country was going through 250 years ago. Our country could have very well just stayed where it was and felt comfortable. They had this big government supposedly taking care of them. And what was the sacrifice? A few freedoms here, a few freedoms there. When they decided a little bit before July 4th that this was going to be a path they were going on, they were unshackling a lot of things and basically made this major declaration, as you point out in your article, of look, we need to be individually very strong. That was not just a huge gamble. Often people would say, if they look back, and they would have said, Preston, that most likely was going to fail. It didn't. How far off do you think we are from that original intent?
Well, I mean, that's an excellent point. And, if you look back at the history of revolutions usually end in bloody massacres and guillotines and all sorts of tragedies. And so the Americans were very reluctant to go that path. However, the situation that they were in, the way that the king was trying to run their colonies and take away their ability to have representation and to govern themselves. Look, these were men that had come to the new world and learned how to govern themselves, and they lived as free men. And when someone takes away that freedom, that came that was not a price that they were willing to pay. And so, what they did then, going forward, though, was incredible, just in the sense of what they constructed. They understood human nature so well. They put in checks and balances in the government, and they created a republic that we can all be thankful for. And yeah, we have strayed somewhat from that path. I think there's a lot that we need to kind of re-moor ourselves to kind of what made this country great in the first place. But I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic that when difficult times come, Americans usually step up to the plate. And so I think, yes, there are challenges, but I choose to be optimistic that Americans are going to choose their better angels, and that they are going to choose personal responsibility over victimhood and grievance.
I always love that phrase. Once again, Preston Brashers, we put his information up online as well, Advancing American Freedom. I can't help but hearken to when I talk about AAF and where you guys are. One of the things, and I actually appreciate this every once in a while, as somebody who professes to be, a true Granite State conservative. The conservative movement, above all every other kind, it's not really a movement, but ideals, they tend to be more challenged than any other ideals or movements out there, that we have to revisit ourselves ever so often, if not every single day. And that's where we are once again. When we hear the word conservative, or when we hear the media use the word conservative, there's this concept that I'm not familiar with. I go back to our founding, and I know you guys over at AAF are really fighting for reminding people what it truly means to be conservative in this country, because we've got Republicans and Democrats alike, Preston, that are trying to sell us something that is more of victimhood and more of walking away from personal responsibility.
Yeah, that's right. And I think this has traditionally been something that you've seen a lot more on the left, is this kind of grievance mindset.
Yes.
That, you think about the DEI agenda, you think about ESG and the climate agenda, and, scaring kids about their future, and all these wrongs that have been done to you, and making them feel like they don't have agency in their lives. That was a hallmark of the left. Unfortunately, I think we're seeing that more and more on the new right, or I would say we have been seeing that more and more. I think there has been a pushback recently that where I think there is momentum towards, look, we need to kind of have a bit of a self-correction here, because I think a lot of this actually kind of goes back to COVID, frankly. 5-6 years ago, Americans did suffer under the tyranny of kind of oppressive governments, or whether at the local level or certain federal policies as well. And for that, I think there was kind of a sense in which people felt that they lacked control. And again, this was something that was done by the government. So that's why I think people need to be careful when they're looking to government for solutions to these things. Is the government is usually the one that's perpetrating these things. So, I think really it's critical for conservatives to be looking for solutions, looking for ways to enhance personal agency, personal responsibility, and reject this mindset that there's some nebulous forces that are out to get you. No, it's usually the government that's kind of the one that's making your life difficult.
Yeah, it is interesting too, Preston. Once again, advancing American freedom. I'm going to post this article up online. It's interesting too, Preston, because every once in a while I'll see a leader or leaders emerge to remind us what we should be thinking about, especially for those of us who hold dear the history of conservatism. And of course, Vice President Pence I met years ago, and he was one of those people who helped course correct me a couple times as well. But when I look at advancing American freedom, one of the things that I know why you're a little bit more optimistic, you have a very young team as well. They're seasoned people, but it must be pleasing for you to have younger people who are either going through college or just coming out of college, who really embrace those ideals, who really look at personal responsibility and reject that victimhood. I see this new class that you guys are helping to educate as are going to be very important in the next 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of bright conservatives out there. I mean, I am fortunate that I have the opportunity to interact with so many of them on a regular basis. I'm going to be meeting with some college students here in a little bit that to just kind of talk about some of these issues. And so, yeah, there's a lot of reason for hope and optimism. And I think, yeah, I mean, we're going to have to do a little bit of soul searching. We don't know exactly where things are going to be headed in next year in the midterms, and in 2 years after that, when there's the next presidential election and beyond. In the political sphere, outside the political sphere, there's any number of things that can happen in the world around us. You can control yourself. You can control what's going on in your own life, and I think there's a lot of conservative voices that have kind of spoken that message, and some that haven't, and so, or some on the new right. So I think one of the defining issues of our time will be which side we listen to, which side gains the momentum in the conservative movement, and are the leaders that we have in the years to come, are they going to be ones that are pushing people to understand that they control their own lives, or are they going to be people that are using grievances, driving wedges between people, and making people feel like victims.
Well, once again, we're talking to Preston Brashers, of course, Advancing American Freedom. We post this information up online. Before I let you go, Preston, I'm glad you're going to have an opportunity to speak to some of the younger minds as well. They're hearing voices. Bernie Sanders, who's no young guy, by the way, and he's right to the left of us in New Hampshire, both politically and in direction. But and Mandani, he's just seems to be permeating everywhere. I don't think his message is as strong as most people are. What advice do you give to people about recentering themselves if they profess to be conservatives? But what are some of the things we should be doing, certainly to help out everyone, especially the younger generations as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it just comes down to engagement and kind of seeing those examples and I think so much of our lives and our happiness comes down to kind of those personal relationships that we have. And so, I can have conversations with people and you can give lectures, but I think most of it comes down to, demonstrating it to your kids, to your nephews, to your grandkids, talking to these young people about our own experiences, because I think most of our own experiences kind of lead to this realization, right? That we have agency over our own lives, that when we make good decisions, there's usually good results that come out of that. When we make poor decisions, and so usually those consequences will fall on us. And so I think just having those conversations, being honest with young people, and just not playing into this notion that the world is, that you're just, a boat on the tides of the ocean is swirling around you, and you're just, at the whim of whatever's going on around you. You can control your future. You don't have perfect control, but you certainly have a lot of control, and you certainly have control over how you think about yourself and whether you're a victim or whether you're going to make the best of the situation that you have.
Yeah, really well said. Once again, Preston, of course, conservatives must embrace personal responsibility, reject victimhood. This is certainly a great read. Highly encourage you. We posted it up online as well. Any final thoughts before we let you go, Preston? And have a great conversation this afternoon with the college guys.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah, I mean, I just I'm optimistic. I mean, I think
Good.
That's my final word. Is just I have a sense that Americans are going to pull through and things are going to work out well in the years to come.
Great article, Preston. Thanks for joining us this morning.